Hi everyone, and welcome to our first episode of our podcast. My name is Tayo, and I am the founder of MediReach. To my right is our co-host Tohidul.
Hi guys, so this is the very first podcast we're doing with MediReach. I know we've done a lot of work on pharmaceutical podcasts. This is something very different that we're working on. And my friend Tayo, who's also a pharmacist, recently qualified, we've kind of joined together to create this podcast, series of podcasts that we're going to be doing over the next 1 year, where we'll really delve deep into marketing, pharmacies, what's affecting the pharmacists, and how we can improve things for you guys. So without any delay, let's get into the podcast. On my right, I've got Halima Javid. She's a great pharmacist, recently qualified, set up the Phaceclinics, and she's doing some really great stuff. And on my right, I've got Omar, the marketing strategist. He's the guy that's behind our new marketing for the Pharmacist Cooperative. He's doing some great work within the dental world. And in our conversations, I thought, you know what, we need this guy in the pharmacy world. The amount of amazing work he's done within the dental world, we can really bring that over. And today's podcast is really all about looking at what we can do as pharmacists. Like, you know, we do that daily dispensing stuff. We do the clinical work in the primary care. What else can we do? And I think this is where, Halima, you've done some really amazing work with your private clinic and what you're trying to set up, and we've had some long conversations about this stuff. So I just want to start off with you first. You know, you only qualified, what, 2 years ago?
Yeah, just going into 2 years. Yeah.
Okay. So practically new, very new within the pharmacy world. What made you decide to go into your own private clinic?
I think I did enjoy, because I was employed and I've done the employed worked in pharmacy in community for quite a while now. And I wanted to take that next step of running my own business, something that I'm interested in. And the good thing with pharmacy is you have that scope of developing yourself into all of these different areas, and you're not limited in what you can do. It's just that we don't really go into it usually because we get comfortable in what we're doing day to day as a pharmacist. We don't realise that there's other things out there that we can do. And I think I always knew I wanted to do something different. I love community pharmacy, but I did want to delve into a specialist area, which I have kind of gone into now. So with Phaceclinics, I'm looking into running a lot of private clinics that are skin-based. That's something that interests me, and with pharmacy, I've been given that opportunity to set that up.
Okay, so what challenges would you say you've faced trying? I mean, you're a female pharmacist, newly qualified, and I know you told really interesting stories about how pharmacy owners or certain pharmacy owners, mansplain to you how to do business. I think we need to hear about these stories first.
So I think it is difficult because when you look at me and you think, she's a female, and people want to know how much skill you have. So it's common to get asked, how many years have you been qualified, just to kind of see how much experience that person has. But as a female, I have found it a lot more difficult to get into these conversations with people and being taken seriously. Which it has been difficult for me, but I've strove to, not let that limit me. So I have had conversations with pharmacy contractors where I wanted to run these clinics in their affluent pharmacies in really good locations, and they've got years of experience behind them. One conversation I was having with the contractor told me that I was extortionate as a pharmacist and he could not afford me.
Just want to make this a bit clear. When he said extortionate, how much were you actually charging?
It was not above £30, which is literally the standard, if not actually below standard range in Manchester, because I'm from Manchester and that's the area that I kind of cover. So that was the rate, and I was labelled as an extortionate pharmacist. he led the conversation with trying to explain how, Locator Locum works, which everyone loves that platform at the moment. So, yeah, how that works and how pharmacists get trafficked into traffic.
Not everyone. Okay.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, so you get this like traffic system where pharmacists are placed in like area codes, and I don't know, to be honest, what he was trying to explain was how basically you get like a standard rate of what is going in that area, which I politely listened, but for me it was a conversation I wasn't there to have. My skills and the rate doesn't depend on how many years of experience I have or my gender. It depends on how much skills I'm bringing into that pharmacy, and I'm willing to stick by that and negotiate in a way where I stand my ground, because I know how hard I've worked, and we've all worked, and we shouldn't have to kind of devalue ourselves because of other people kind of saying, he was telling me he's got 20 years of experience, which again is great, but we're all in the same business at the end of the day. But what struck me in that conversation was that he did actually want to do a business deal in the clinics with me, which was shocking because in one side I'm expensive as a pharmacist, but in one side I'm great as a business. So yeah, I politely declined the offer. So that conversation has literally, and I think we've spoken length about this, is not that one conversation, it was constant. But I think my advice would be to people who are wanting to set these clinics, like, please be willing to walk away. Nothing is worse than seeing someone who's desperate. And that's one thing that I really want people to understand. It's okay to walk away and actually value yourself a little bit more and the skills that you bring.
How are you planning to raise awareness to the services you provide, and how important is the location of where you're providing the services as well?
I think that's a really good question. For me, me and Omar had discussed this, and we talked about our audience, who I was actually aiming my clinics for. So we did discuss that at length, and we're looking at quite affluent areas to run these clinics. But that's just my personal target, yeah. But I think everyone should really know where they're setting up the clinics and what is actually lacking in that area. Because there are a lot of private clinics that are being set up at the moment, but you need to know the area quite well. I'm marketing it at the moment using pharmacies as a footfall for my clients, speaking to guys like yourselves that are great in the industry at the moment, and yeah, that's kind of the main footfall for the clients. I'm using social media as well at the moment, but Omar's doing a fantastic job with getting that up and running a little bit more. So you will see a lot more Phaceclinics. But yeah, that's kind of it. Social media, speaking to pharmacists, and really connecting with people, because I think sometimes you get so into this kind of online world, you don't actually see people. So it's really nice, having these sort of conversations and seeing people doing so well in their areas.
And I think this is where I will bring Omar into the conversation. And we've spoken at length about marketing, and you've got a lot of experience with the dental world, and how what really struck me when we were having this conversation was that when you said pharmacy is essentially 10 years behind dentistry. And that I think I found quite fascinating, because back in the days when I used to go into dental practices, it was inside a house, white paint everywhere, and the dental practice was just like going to a GP, you're getting surgery. You don't want to go to a dentist because, one, the place looks scary, and then you have your, the drills inside your mouth. But they've now changed it, and they've turned it around, and it's now all, it's like a dental spa. It's a whole different experience. They've changed the way dental practices work. You no longer go into an old house with loads of dentists in the old bedrooms. You now have a professional-looking clinic, and that's a big transformation for that sector. The pharmacy world is going through something very similar, where we're heavily reliant on the NHS. everyone's really focused on trying to get as many prescriptions through the door as possible. But it's still money that's lost. There's so much more we can do. Give me your take on this as someone looking into the pharmacy world from the outside.
Into how it's behind the dental practice, into going into the transition?
To what the pharmacy world looks to you like right now, and where do you see us going in another 5 or 10 years' time?
So I think, right, I'll begin with marketing and entrepreneurship. It goes hand in hand, and it's always to do with, as Halima just mentioned, by the audience. Most entrepreneurs make the mistake of, for example, selling. They start with what they're selling, but the first question is who you're selling to. Where's the demand? What do they need? What dentists have done really well is they've identified. So before, as you mentioned, 20 years ago, for example, you would go to a dentist because you need a dentist. Now people go into the dentist because they want a dentist, because they want something. Okay, so we have two powerful drivers, right? We have needs and wants, but we don't actually buy what we need. We buy what we want. And I don't know if this was by design, if it's by accident, but dental practices, dentists have understood this. So they've seen that people want nicer teeth. Maybe that's through social media now, with people being on camera. I'm not too sure what it was, but what's important is they've identified, actually, people want this. People want nice teeth. And I've had this huge marketing campaign collectively in the industry where it's teeth are the most important thing, have that perfect smile, confidence. So always remember that the transformation for a patient happens, there's always two transformations. There's the internal and external. So yes, the external transformation is having good teeth. They're not buying it for that. It's the internal, which is confidence, self-esteem. And that's where the pharmacy will, I believe, have to turn to now. So I know there's a lot of maybe I don't know if it's an over-reliance on NHS and it's serving people that need things. The community have huge wants. And the good thing with pharmacists, and I actually believe pharmacists don't value themselves as much as they should. That's my conversation. They have...
Big statement, that.
Yeah, because they have this skill set which they can deliver these wants. The community wants these things.
Yeah.
The services that you provide, the treatments. But I don't think a lot of people are tapping into it.
No, I think that's quite an important factor, that thing that you just said, where you think pharmacists don't value themselves. Like, you'll hear a lot of conversations, oh, I'm just a pharmacist today. You're not just a pharmacist. Without you, the pharmacy doesn't open. Without you, the prescription that the GP wrote doesn't get dispensed. Right? And there was a TED Talk I listened to a while ago where it was an American pharmacist, and he said, look, pharmacists are the most important healthcare profession within the whole circle of care. We're like the guardians of healthcare profession, of healthcare. So we're the first people the patient sees when they have a minor condition, they go to the pharmacy, right? And we're the last people they see when they come out from the GP or come out from the hospital. So we've got those 2 points, the major factors. So we are just a pillar of the community. Any problem you have, you first go to the pharmacist. So, but we don't value ourselves as much. Oh yeah, I'm just a pharmacist. You know, that kind of tells you internally where you see yourself as a professional. And I think that's something that we need to transform within the sector itself and within the profession. We need to see ourselves, we are the pharmacist, we're the pharmacist, right? When you go into the pharmacy, we're the pharmacist. We're not the guy that's going to give you your meal deals. We're not the person you're going to just speak to about buying some crisps and something else. We're the person, we're the healthcare professional with years of training in pharmacology who understands how that tablet that you're taking is changing your body to the point where you feel better.
So what sort of steps do you think we need to take in the pharmacy world then to get to that level where the dentistry world is at the moment? Where we go wrong?
I think the first step is mindset. So we're talking about mindset. Is the way that pharmacists perceive themselves. I don't know if this is, again, through a university where they think they'll get the degree and then they'll go into training and then they just dispense. I don't know if it's that's what they've been taught or moulded, I'm not sure. But first of all, I mean, look, to go into the way we see it is that everyone's a human being, right? Now, we all have dreams and ambitions. That's where it begins. It has to be an internal thing. A pharmacist has to sit down and ask the question, what do I want from life? Who do I want to help? How can I impact them? If they don't have that, I think it's very difficult. So a lot of entrepreneurs actually don't start with that, which is why a lot of them fail. That's what I've seen in the role. So first of all, as an individual, I don't want to speak about pharmacists as a collective, as a staff, because I see that happening a lot. It's like these are pharmacists, they're just sheep going somewhere. But actually, every single one's an individual, their own personality, their own, mindset and their own ambitions. But first of all, asking the question, okay, who do I want to help? Who do I want to work with? How can I help them? And then start, decide, do you have to, do you need to upskill? Like if you decide that you want to go into hair loss, for example, do you need to upskill? Do you need to do anything for that? And then it's taking that leap of now switching your mindset from this 9-to-5 employee into actually I can make an impact. I can go and help a lot of people. That's going to be the drive that's going to help you, especially through the bad times, because you will go through ups and downs. But if you have that strong why, it will help you through it. So it's really changing the mindset first of thinking, well, do you know what do I want from life? Who do I want to impact? Okay, this is what I want to get into. So that'd be the first thing, is take a look at yourself and self-reflect.
Okay.
I think I actually want to touch on a point that you mentioned as well, like when you were saying that pharmacists don't see themselves as individuals. And I don't know yourself as well, what you think, how that's come about, because I feel like as well, when you speak to a lot of pharmacists that are in the locuming world or even community, to be fair, they speak about themselves as pharmacists and about a standard rate, and that's the conversations that we're having, but no one actually says like, I'm a pharmacist and these are the skills that I have, I've done training here, I've went here and I've worked there. You don't have those conversations, and it's very like rate based and group, like you're in groups. And obviously you've done pharmacy as well. Like, why do you think that comes about?
Yeah, it's quite interesting as well. I think it's a lot to do, like what you touched on about the mindset. I feel like maybe everyone's just satisfied with their standard rate. I don't think they see the effort in upskilling. I think one of the main reasons for that is because they see that there's no reward at the end of the tunnel. So, for example, let's say we all, do our IP degrees now, and then we find a job at a GP pharmacy. The pay increase is not really that much. So why are we going to spend months getting a new degree just for a 10%, pay increase?
Yeah.
Essentially, pay cut.
Pay cut.
Pay cut, actually, yeah.
Yeah, if you look at it, in real terms. So
I just want to jump in what you said, what can pharmacists do to become like where the dental industry is? And there's two things at play here. One is the pharmacists themselves, but there has to be, I think, a top-down approach from the pharmacy. So if you look at dental practices who've gone private, they spend thousands of pounds on marketing campaigns. So I work with a chain of different practices, and they spend a lot from the top. They spend a lot of money to do these campaigns. Pharmacy, I think pharmacies are still seen as, if you ask me what is a pharmacy as a layman before I got involved into it, it'd be like, it's where I get my prescription from.
yeah,
Paracetamol, even get that from Tesco's now. So it has to come from the top. I think that's important. So you have the bottom-up approach, but the top-down approach is really important. Where pharmacists now have to, have this image and start to promote things what the community wants, as we spoke, not just the needs. It's not just about when you're ill. But if they start to promote that and they work with the pharmacist, then I think you're going to have a huge change. And that's what happened in the dental world.
I think as well, what I found as well, because again, I'm like a baby pharmacist at the moment, so I'm still learning a lot of things. But what I found is when we talk about comfortability, a pharmacist, whether they're employed in whatever sector, they get a pay, a day rate, and then they get, a salary, and they're happy with that, even if you're a locum. But it's sad to see that pharmacists are so skilled. We're one of the most skilled healthcare professionals that there are, and we're so willing to actually advance our skills as well. However, I find that a lot of pharmacists are not willing to put that energy into themselves, where they're, marketing themselves, promoting themselves, because it costs to do that. And I don't know if this you guys have found this, but I feel like a lot of pharmacists don't want to put that cost down, because setting up a business does cost, and it does take a lot of work as well, and you have to speak to the right people, and some people are like, well, I get a decent kind of rate. And
But there must be a reason for that, though, because I refuse to believe that dentists are these forward-thinking entrepreneurs, and we're not. So
No, I think from my experience, I find a lot of pharmacists are focused. We're like, so you're going to community pharmacy, right? And you're on probably the highest rate you're going to get, right? So your average locum is somewhere between 60 to 80,000 pounds a year. And for a lot of them, they're like, yeah, it's hard work, but we're happy with that. Yeah. This is comfortable. And that's where the problem is. We're comfortable. Right? It's not like back-breaking work, if you think about it. We're not doing 14, 16, 18-hour shifts in a supermarket stacking shelves. We're in a pharmacy, standing up, if you're lucky, sit down, and we're checking prescriptions, handing out, talking to patients. Maybe now we're doing a few pharmacy first services, right? But we're comfortable where we are. There is no driver there for the next big thing. So you come in and you hit the ceiling in terms of your salary, right? There is no higher band unless you really do crazy miles, go across the country. I know one pharmacist who used to go all over the country. She was earning good money, but she only lasted about a year or two of doing that, and then that was a burnout for her. But for most pharmacists, you go in, that's it. It's comfortable, and then you stay on that salary range between 40 and 80,000. You bounce maybe a bit lower if you go to primary care, but you're still comfortable. What we need to do is really change that perspective and say, look, you've done this, you're comfortable, I get it, but you can be your own boss. You can have your own private clinics, you can have your own pharmacy, online or brick and mortar, whichever way you do, but there's a lot more to it. You can do services, hair transplants, hair loss treatments. You can do ED services. You can do morning after pills. You can do them all as private service. You can do it from an online pharmacy, or you can do it from a private clinic, partner with GPs, or all on your own. Like you're doing it, what you're doing on your side. So these things, that's exciting, all right? It's not just that you're making more money, which you will be, hopefully, if it all goes well, if you're doing your marketing right, you do great service, people will keep coming back to you. But it's exciting because you're the boss. Yeah. You don't have to call up every morning and ask, I'll do the shift for 30, and like, oh no, let me explain to you, my dear girl, how you can't why you're not worth £30. You're only worth £29.
Well, it was actually 26.
Okay, 26. I'm sorry, that was offensive. But it's that horse trading that you have to do every morning, or call up the agency. I had a call from one agency a few years ago, and you're saying, see, I'm to speak to you. You keep asking for higher rates, but let me tell you why you can't do that, why you can't get that higher rate. And I had to explain to him, I said, look, I'm the pharmacist and you're not. I know my market.
Yeah.
I do my market research. I know what I'm worth. And the fact that without me, that pharmacy can't open tomorrow tells me how much I'm worth, right? So we've got on the one hand, we've got agencies and we've got employers telling us what they think we're worth. But if you do the market research and you see the contract and how much money they make, and you see Boots' profits year on year when they're complaining about how hard it is to survive, but they're making hundreds of millions every year. That doesn't come out of thin air. I mean, I have to give it to Boots, credit where it's due. They've actually done very good marketing, and they've created a really good internationally recognized brand. That's what pharmacy can go to, right? If you're an individual, you can set up your clinic at Harley Street and you can do all these great services. But we've got the power to do that. We've got the clinical skills to do those kind of services. And I think we need to change that frame of mind that we've got, where we're going into pharmacy and we're going to be doing 9 to 5, we're going to be checking prescriptions, or we're going to do pharmacy first. That's the kind of mind frame we need to change.
I think it's quite self-limiting. That's what you're saying, really, that we have all of these skills that people are telling us that we have, and this is how much they're worth, but we don't see that ourselves. And it is a mindset, and hopefully this will reach that audience as well, and they understand that there are options out there that, you know, can change their future, basically, and how that will look for pharmacists. And no one should actually, like you know, that conversation which I had with a contractor, no one should be feeling comfortable in a position to tell me how much they think I am worth as a pharmacist running a pharmacy. And then, you know, you're hurled into a pharmacy, and then you've got vaccines to do, and then they expect you to run these clinics and, you know, pharmacy first, which you don't get any benefit out of it, but you already have those skills, and that's what I want pharmacists to, you know, to reach an audience where they think that they can achieve that.
I think one of the issues of pharmacists, again, correct me if I'm wrong, is there's a great book by Daniel Priestley, Key Person of Influence, and he talks about, so if I go back to the dental practice, if you see where people are making money, is they specialise in one thing. So I know someone, for example, they were doing NHS. Clear aligners came and they thought, you know, I'm going to just try it. They did the course and they did a couple of patients and he made money from it. Once he got the taste of it, he knew what he was doing, he got his confidence, he flew with that. And I think a pharmacist really has to think about, what do I want to specialise in? So I've worked 6-7 years ago with a clinic in Mayfair. She came from Harley Street and she only specialised in one thing, but she was making hundreds of thousands of pounds a month because she was a specialist in it. And I think the first thing
Go back, hundreds of thousands of pounds a month.
Yeah. She was making, because she was really,
I'm in the wrong profession.
she knew her target market.
You're in the right profession. You need to use that.
What was this, doctor?
She was a doctor, but she was...
Oh, she's a doctor.
But she was...
Yes.
That's what I'm getting at, yeah.
So
That even though she's a doctor, that pharmacists can have that as well. She was...
Look, you know what it is, people, doctor or not, if you specialise in one skill, you become from a generalist to a specialist, right? That's what the book is I was mentioning. After a specialist, if you do content, educate people, you become an expert. The higher you go, the more money you're making. But if you're trying to do 7, I think with pharmacy world, I see there's so many different treatments you can do. The dental world, you look at, there's clear aligners, veneers, composite bond, and teeth whitening. With 4 maybe key services that people need. And then you'll see a dentist doing one, maybe they might go and do a second one after they've established themselves. But it's about building your personal brand, right? So let's say if I was doing hair loss treatment, if I was going to do this, I was going to specialise in it. I wouldn't just do it as, I do hair loss, everyone, you know, if you've got a hair loss problem, I would create a movement from it. I would be passionate about it. So when I do my marketing, I'm passionate about people reaching their potential, making an impact. It's genuine, that's what I want. So it's about creating that personal brand. What do you stand for? Okay, you're going to do skin, for example, right? Very important question. What do you stand for? How, you know, that has to resonate through all your marketing. Genuinely, it will come as authentic and people will just, you know, be attracted to you. But if you're just going to be like everyone else and, okay, I'm going to do hair loss and just advertise it, you'll just get lost in a red ocean.
I think the benefit of that, what you're saying, is that pharmacists have all of these options, whereas dentists are somewhat limited. And the fact that we have all these options, we can pick what we specialise in.
So I should raise the same point, that because we can do so many things, we don't need to compete with each other.
100%,
right?
yeah.
So you're doing skin, great.
Yeah.
I'll work with you and I'll do hair, right? Somebody else can say, okay, oh, you guys are doing skin and hair. I'll go do something else. I'll do men's health or women's health, right? So you can almost have like a group of pharmacists working together in one place where you guys each specialize in different things. But the end result is you all get a lot of clients coming in together into one place. And I think that's probably one of the strengths of pharmacies, in that we have the option. We're not limited to 4 or 5 different conditions or services.
Yeah, and we'll stay on this topic then. What sort of advice would you give to a pharmacist or a pharmacist running a clinic in terms of their marketing? Is there something they should be doing specifically, or is it dependent on the pharmacy itself and what area they're in? Or
Good question. The first thing which I don't see a lot of pharmacists doing, or well, businesses in general, is really understanding who your patient is. And I'm talking on a deep level. Understanding who they are, what their pain points are, what their desires are, and then creating a value proposition, creating your offer and say, well, this is who my audience is, and then understanding where they are. So when I mean physically or digital, are they on Facebook? So if you're targeting 50 plus, maybe they're going to be on Facebook. Younger crowds, Instagram. Maybe even younger might be TikTok, even though there's an overspill. But it's understanding what they really want. I mean, I can't emphasize that. And then it's just, become so good. Like, spend 3 to 5 years, upskilling yourself and becoming the best at what you do. So in terms of that, will do its own marketing.
Yeah.
But really understand who your target market is. I always begin with that. I get paid a lot of money, to go to a company and say, okay, we need to get more sales in. I always start, no matter which business it is, okay, who are you targeting? What are their pain points? Where are they? How can we hook them in?
Okay.
What's the message? What's the hook? What do you want to say to them so they can just get their attention? Then everything else becomes a lot easier.
But yeah, so we're looking at picking a niche, so
Yeah.
1 or 2 services, and then understanding the background behind who they are, who you're trying to sell that service to. Is what I got.
Yeah, I think, Rory Sutherland, we listen to him, he says this a lot. I've learned a lot from him. He's an amazing marketer, but he really goes on, he says, it's not about common sense. So in our agency, right, when we started out, I was really trying to understand, what do people want, a nicer website, social media, why are they picking us instead of someone in India or someone down the road? But actually what they really wanted, it wasn't about how good the website is. What they really wanted is someone they could, almost like an account, a good relationship with the agency. And that's what a lot of our clients make their decision on.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with how good, of course it has to be really good, but it's understanding what is it they really want.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes not common sense. I'll finish with this, that Henry Ford, he said, if I asked people what they wanted, they would have said a nicer saddle for the horses. But he didn't listen, he understood there's something deep, and he produced a car. Yeah. So customers are always right, but sometimes it's not just about the obvious thing.
Yeah.
So,
But does that mean that a pharmacist still can't provide like a range of services then, or are you saying that the marketing itself should be targeted towards like one service in particular? Or do you think it should just focus on that one service?
definitely on one service. So I got invited to Qatar last year, and for one of their old families, and they had this problem. They have this huge health centre, and they had, I think, about 15, 20 services. It's amazing what they do, state of the art. And he said, we're struggling. And I went and assessed it. The problem they had was they weren't focused, they were selling everything. So we changed that around by saying, right, what's the most profitable? What do you want to do? Did all the questions. And we decided to do this funnel where they're going to focus on weight loss, because that was a big thing. And we did campaigns, and that, just the leads, I think within a few months, produced over 1 million Qatari, was it dirham? I can't remember what it is. And because it was focused, like, people don't understand. You just sell one thing, you could make 7 figures. You just sell if you become really good, you can make 7 figures from selling one thing, one service. Once you've established that, you build a system around it, then get into the second thing. But when you're trying to sell 2 or 3 things, it's chasing 2 rabbits, as the proverb is.
Okay, some advice?
Yeah, and I think that kind of leads us on to the next question that I had was, technology is really important in the current age. AI is all the rage at the moment. How would someone looking to set up their own private clinic, say, for example, or even want someone who's got a pharmacy already established and they want to set up a new private service, or even NHS, to be honest, how would they leverage technology such as AI to even, just get that exposure, get that bigger bang for buck?
Oh, that's a huge question, but there's so many different ways. So, first of all, Now, I think anyone who goes into business needs a mentor. You need someone to help you and tell you what you need to do. If you don't have that, you've got two good options. One is YouTube, if you follow the right people. So one way you can leverage AI is by asking, so let's say, speak to, ask the questions. This is what I want to sell. Who's my target audience? AI will give you a really deep understanding of your target audience. So that's one way you can leverage that. AI can now produce copyright like text for your content that you'd have to pay thousands of pounds for a professional to do, right? Whether it's social media, whether it's for the website, whether it's for email marketing. AI now can do that at a really good level for free instantly. Another thing as well is automation. So for Halima, as we're setting her clinic up, is one of the things is automation. Automation is huge in this day and age. It's almost like having an army of employees, and it's cost next to nothing. As a business owner, you get stuck with all these ad hoc tasks and admin tasks. Use AI and automation, you've almost got a very powerful team behind you. In fact, Sam Altman, the one who co-founded ChatGPT, he said very soon, this is a huge statement, very soon there's going to be the first $1 billion solopreneur because of the power of AI and automation. What does that mean for us? That you can actually set a clinic up and you can leverage AI and automation without investing heavily into people. I mean, we had a team of 7 to 10 people 2 years ago. That shrunk a lot because a lot of the work is done by AI and automation. You can this is the time now where you can honestly leverage technology. A pharmacist has the skills. You've got access to automation AI. If you're not making 7 figures, that's not because of the opportunity. That's because of either your mindset or you've not understood it. Think of it like a team. It's a very powerful team that you can get for free.
Yeah, I think that's actually quite deep, because there's locums or pharmacy in general. We work alone, right? We go into the pharmacy. There's only one pharmacist. You'd be lucky these days if you ever meet another pharmacist at the pharmacy, unless you get double booked. But for that kind of an environment, I think using AI now, we can essentially set the clinics up, get the AI to help with the market research, write the content, get the promotion, and all of that without having to pay someone for the consultancy work to do that. And that's powerful. That is really, really powerful. And I think this is where we need to do a lot more research. And I thought you've done a lot of this work yourself. Omar's obviously with his guidance as well. But I think I'm sure this has probably helped you a lot in moving forward into your clinic.
Yeah, and we are standardising it in a way where I pull myself out of the business and it still runs. And that's what's important, because like you mentioned, a lot of pharmacists are a one person show. You're everything, and without you, nothing works. You can't open, you can't dispense, and that's the thing. So I think it's shifting that mindset and understanding that if we pull ourselves out of the business, will that business collapse or will it still stay? In using AI and automating like all of these aspects, that will help. So yeah, that's kind of what we're looking into. And when I'm speaking to people about private clinics as well, I don't want it to turn into a 9-to-5 as such, even though it's a business. So it needs to be a way where, that business stands itself without me being in there, without the pharmacist. And how can we come up with ways that still stands and it's on a good ground as well?
Yeah, so I think, if I'm thinking about a lot of the private services, I suppose where you need the pharmacist obviously is to do the service itself, and where you'd use AI is really managing your bookings, managing your marketing, and also in terms of researching your area, so in keeping up to date with the latest clinical information. I think AI can be used as a really good AI agents, I think as they call them now. This is where you can have like specially trained AI bot that can do research on a certain topic. So you can essentially get all your latest clinical knowledge, summarize it, and have it referenced. But it makes consuming that information a lot easier and faster. Like for research, I've done a lot of work around using AI for helping with summarizing the research stuff that I've kind of gathered. You get reams and reams of paper, long websites. You can use now AI just to summarize all that information really quickly, which is really powerful. And in private clinic, I think that can be leveraged in a very powerful way.
I mean, you save a massive amount of time. You'll know as well with your business as well, how much man hours it takes, and it's not a 9 to 5, it's actually 24 hours, 7 days a week, and you're always working on your business. And I think people know that AI exists, but like you said, a lot of people assume AI just writes text for you and your essays, but don't know how that actually can help in your business. And that's what Omar is helping me with as well, is seeing how in my business, how AI can transform it in a way that it's streamlined, and I actually don't need those sort of man hours, and I don't need to hire anyone. There's no overhead costs for that. So yeah, I think that's really beneficial, and I think it's not actually marketed that well, and people don't know that these things exist. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of fear that the AI is going to take our jobs.
Yeah.
Right, and I see how they are already. Some of the things that I use AI for now, I used to pay for someone to do it, so I can really...
Can you give examples of that?
Yeah, so I used to use Fiverr platform for my PDF guides, and I use a AI platform, and they do it for me in a minute.
And how accurate are they, would you say?
Fantastic, they do way better than a freelancer, so yeah, that's one way of introducing AI.
And how much cost saving has that?
Over a period of a month, it could probably save me hundreds of... It just depends. At the moment, probably hundreds of pounds, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Omar will just pick your brain on this one. So, where do you see AI having the most impact for someone who's looking to who's either in the initial stages of opening up their clinic or have already opened up their clinic?
I think, first of all, it's... so AI, just to touch up and come back to this, it's a tool, right? So a lot of people don't know how to use a tool properly. There's no standardized way of using it. Everyone's learning. We keep developing. We keep getting better at it. So just a quick tip about AI, if you're going to use it, it's all about context. So if you say, write an email, for example, or, let's just stick to that example. If you just say, write an email to a patient who wants to do, hair loss treatment, it'll give you a standardized response. But if you give it a good prompt with context, he's 45 years old, this is how much he's making, and this is what his pain point is, and the more context you give it, the better AI will give you results, the better the effect it'll have. How's it going to impact it? I think what Theo mentioned, first of all, is you just don't need that huge team that you needed before. So you can be... One person can be very streamlined in what they do. They can enter the market quickly, and they can pivot, and that's the most important thing. So, for example, you talk about Boots are huge, but one thing that advantage a small clinic has over Boots is what? You can pivot, right? It's like a Titanic, a big ship. It needs to turn around. You've got a small, a speedboat, and that's where you need to take advantage of that. Because, look, Boots make hundreds of millions, I don't know how much, but what's their turnover? Right?
A couple of billions, yeah.
Billions. You don't need to make billions. You need to make people happy making 300,000. Some people just want to make 100,000 at 10k a mark, 10k a month. So you can now with AI, you don't need that huge team behind you to make 500,000 or 1 million. You actually don't need it. So I think the impact it'll have is if people start to learn to use it properly, it does take away jobs, but also produces other opportunities as well.
Yeah, and I think it's for the people that fear that AI is taking their jobs. I mean, it's a bit like when cars came in. Yeah, we got rid of the horses, but it creates so many new jobs in car manufacturing and car designing, racing. So yes, whilst AI will take away some jobs in certain sectors, just like robotics did with manufacturing, it will give you the opportunity to create new areas, look at new things that you wouldn't look at.
Yeah, so one of the things I personally am against is when people say, oh, I'm not a fan of AI, I'm not a fan of technology. Like you mentioned about cat. In fact, there was a story of this man in a village where he used to go and get ice. And this is in America. It was a hot town. He used to live in, I don't know where, Texas or somewhere. He used to go to the mountains, get this big block of ice, and then sell this ice to people so they could preserve their food. Freezers came, you know, what Rory Sutherland calls it, this magic cupboard, which you can put your food that preserves it. He didn't want to switch. He didn't believe in this technology. You can imagine what happened after a few weeks. He was gone. You know, his business went. And the first thing, I think one of the first things a pharmacist should do, apart from what do I want to do, is upskill yourself with AI and automation. It's quite simple to use. The whole point of AI is that you don't need to be that skilled. Like people, it's the opposite. Think about it. Like I can build a website now, if it's AI website builder. It's not 100%, but it can build a website really quickly to a good standard, 80, 90%. Learn about AI, learn about automation, leverage it. Do not be one of those who say, oh, you know what, it's not for me, you know, I'm like the old-fashioned way, using spreadsheets. If you're going to be that way, you'll be like that man in the story where you will get left behind. Say, you know, just honestly upskill. My father's in his 80s, and he's, I think, had a very successful career in what he's done, leadership, but he has always stayed ahead of time when it comes to IT. He knows how to use, you know, PowerPoint or whatever it is. Any technology that comes in, he'll embrace it. And that's kept him in the lead. So embrace it. Embrace AI, embrace automation, and actually start to read and learn. And YouTube is amazing. I know there's a lot of junk on there, but you can learn a lot. If you just learn the basics, you could utilize a lot of that in your business, and you'll see do two things. It'll save you a lot of time, but it'll make you a lot of money.
I wanted to go in a bit into about pricing private healthcare services. So, what have you learned so far, and how have you found it?
So yeah, that is a very controversial topic because a lot of private clinics. I mean, you don't have a basically standard price list that you follow, and how much profit you're going to make from that. It really does depend on the individual. I mean, me and Omar sat down for quite a hefty session, and we discussed prices for my clinic personally. I do believe it takes a lot of research, and who your target is, who are the people that you are selling this to, because you want their money.
Yeah.
And that's the facts of the matter. You want the money, so you've really got to point yourself in a way where you know who your target audience is, how much they're willing to spend, and how much you are willing to upskill yourself as well, and basically sell your skill. So I found it quite difficult because it's not based on a region.
Yeah.
Whereas in Locuming, for example, we see a standard rate for London, Greater Manchester, Cornwall, etc. You see these standard sort of rates, but unfortunately you don't have that for a private clinic. But I think that's actually a good thing for us, because we can then make more profit. So for me, for example, it was important that I had a large profit margin, which considered how much skill I was bringing into that. And yeah, a lot of market research, to be honest.
So that's the most important thing, the market research.
Yeah, and also when you're speaking to, contractors or people that you're liaising with to run private clinics, is actually when you're having that conversation, you know exactly what you're expecting, not walk in blindly, because I think it is a new sort of aspect at the moment. A lot of pharmacists don't know how much they should be charging.
Yeah, I see a lot of that, like, pharmacists are like, oh, I don't think they'll pay for this service.
Exactly.
Because a lot of patients are used to coming to a pharmacy and, you know, getting advice for free and pretty much getting everything for free, so...
Yeah.
But it was like how we were having that conversation earlier, you know, when I was speaking to one of the contractors that I was planning to run the private clinic with, is, you know, I could have gone into that conversation and accepted his terms and basically made nothing for myself. But just from what he was telling me from his research, but at the end of the day, he's also got a business to sell. And it's important that we work together, and you also are not shy or scared of losing out on a business or walking away from a deal. And like I mentioned before, we basically sometimes feel like we're stuck. We've put so much work into it and, it's not working for us, and we're constantly getting bad deals. But there will be that one deal that you get and that will turn everything around. And it's being willing to wait and not accepting, you know, dodgy deals, basically. So, yeah.
One thing about pricing as well, people think that people always pay for the cheapest, and it's not true. And if you look like, you know, you've got an iPhone, you know you could buy a phone made in China for £60, but why is it we spend £1,000 on an iPhone? So when it comes to pricing, there's what we need to ask, it's about human psychology, right? So there's two things that can affect a price. One is power of association. So let's say, for example, you know, I've done this treatment and I've done it with a famous celebrity or something. All of a sudden, that's going to pump my prices up automatically, right? Another way is, which is the easiest, if you don't have that, okay, so I always say one of the quickest way to grow your businesses is go and try and get someone who don't have to be a major influencer, but a micro-influencer, and work your way up. If you could get one person and you do great service for them and they put it on the social media, it'll make, you know, your prices will go up, your sales will go up, your following, everything will go up.
Yeah, I saw an example of that actually. I think Drake posted an artist drawing of himself on Instagram, and he started charging people thousands of pounds for all his drawings just after that.
Because of power of association.
Title's the Drake of pharmacy. You've got to
I don't know about Drake.
And that in just...
No, but you know what, that as well, I wanted to, because what we talked about was as well, because when I was starting as well, I was thinking, God, like, I'm not a specialist in my area. I've not really done it. No one's going to come to me, like, you know, because it's a new area. And I think what was important was not starting low and going up. It's actually setting your standard in a good way. Because at the end of the day, if you were getting loads of clients, I don't know, for a packet of crisps, I don't know, for £1, and that's what you set, no one's going to pay you £100, and that's what you're aiming for, and that's your target audience. It just doesn't make sense. You will never, you know, fill that gap. It will never go down because you've marketed yourself for £1. You can't get, you will never get 100. So it's actually not looking at competition and what's out there. Yeah, do your research, but actually valuing yourself as an individual as well, and understanding that, you know, what are they paying me for? Is it actually for the treatment, or like Omar was saying, or is there something that needs fixing within themselves, or something deeper?
The second point, sorry, that's to do with that as well, is, so if the first one is power of association, a lot of people don't have that, they have this influencer brand. So how else can you put your prices, charge higher? Never compete on prices, that's always a bad idea, but it's perceived value. So dental will do this really well. If you look, now it's become norm, so if you look at Invisalign now, you see the campaigns, what we call this a matter of stacking value, right? So let's say I can sell you a website for £1,000, £2,000. Now, shall I go with that? Shall I go with this? But if I stack value, I say, I'm going to give you free coaching, I'm going to give you free hosting, I'm going to give you this, I'm going to give you that. And you can stack the value where you make it worth £7,000, £8,000, but say, I'm going to do it for you for £3,000. People see that, think, wow, I'm getting £7,000 for £3,000. I don't even need to go to that £1,000 mark. So if you don't have that power of association when you're doing your services, think about what value can you give them? What can you put in there that people need? So think about, so there's something called a problem cycle solution. So it's when someone has a problem, you solve it, it creates another problem. So let's say, for example, you need to buy a car, a problem. You have a dealership, they provide you a car, there's a solution. You've bought the car, doesn't end there. Now they need to service it. That's another problem. Can the same car dealer now provide servicing? Okay, when they service it, that's one solution. But it goes round all the way until eventually now I want to sell my car and I can now sell it back to the dealership. So don't think as a patient as just one solution, as just, okay, hair loss treatment. What else do they need? What's the whole ecosystem? So when we talk about weight loss, it's not just about weight loss. They might need meal plan, they might need routine, their daily routine. Really identify what problems. That's what it is. If you specialize in one thing and you understand your patient, you'll understand all the problems they have. Give them solutions. There's different ways. I don't want to get into it too much, but different ways you can provide solutions, right? PDFs. It can be a service. Obviously, the more time it involves you, the less you can. So obviously, the cost needs to go higher. But think about the problems that will come afterwards, or before, during, and afterwards. When you give these solutions and you can design this package, now your pricing you can charge 5,000-6,000.
Yeah.
Other people can charge £1,000.
And I think it's quite an interesting conversation, this, because a lot of it goes back to how Locum pharmacists, how we negotiate our rates. And I think I was trying to do this last year, where we get in a negotiation expert to come and do a podcast and go through teaching people how to negotiate. And when you see how pharmacies do their pricing, it's very similar situation there. Like, we always compete on the price. The reason why Locum rates go down is because you compete on the price. And I keep telling people, look, don't compete on the price. Add value or upskill and do a deal with the pharmacy owner, right? Where you're not just going to be there for checking the script, but you're doing the additional services. Okay, so you're doing pharmacy first, you're doing NMSs, you're doing morning after pills or any other paid services. Okay, now negotiate a fee for that service. But learn to price, learn to understand your value, understand the contract from the NHS and what you'll be paid, understand the market and the demand for that service. Based on all those parameters, work out a price and negotiate price. But then tell the contractor, I'm basing my price on X, Y, and Z. That they don't then turn around and say, well, what are you worth? Why am I going to pay you more than £19 or £20 an hour? Same with selling the treatments. Don't compete on the price, like you said. Compete on being the best. Right? Once you're the best, they will come to you. I've seen contractors who are even multiples who are willing to pay certain locums double the standard rate. They don't even ask them. They say, yeah, you rate £60 an hour today. Not negotiating on that one. That's fine.
Yeah.
Because they know when they go in, they're not going to leave a mess. They'll do the job. They'll do all the services. It's guaranteed that that's going to run smoothly. So with patients, when we sell the services, we need to do it in a way where patients look at our brand and say, you know what, I can go to this pharmacy or go to this private clinic and I know he or she will give me the best possible service. And I'm going to come out looking like $1 million. Right, so.
Yeah, and that's the key thing here, because I want to just touch upon aesthetics. For example, you'll get a Miller filler, the cheapest, FDA approved ones at least, for let's say, for argument's sake, 50 quid, and someone from a salon will sell that for 100. They're making £50 profit, not including all the other sort of rent, equipment and stuff that they use. So they've made a decent profit there. But to me, it's not. And then the ones that are doing it well understand that it's not the product that they're buying, it's the image that they get after. How are they feeling when they leave, when they see you? That's what they want. The compliments that they're getting, the likes that they're getting, everyone's chasing that at the moment. And it's not just, you know, charging for the product, it's the image that they get later, and you understanding that, and actually how valuable that is for them, how much that will improve their confidence, their mental health, their self-image, how other people see them. And that's just using aesthetics for an example. And that's why people that you see do it well, clients are going to them and they keep rebooking them and they're getting services again because they understand that this person does it well and they're not botched. And they look good, they feel good, and that's what you're selling. So it's understanding what is it that they're actually buying, because, you know, the actual product might be not so expensive, but you giving them that confidence is what they're actually after. Yeah. And I think dentists, like you said, understand that and do it so well because they understand that, you know, these patients aren't just after a good set of teeth. Actually, they can probably live their lives with a bad set of teeth. So why is it that they're willing to spend 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, keep going back for different treatments? What is it that's so exciting about having perfect teeth?
And it's painful. Actually, a lot of treatments are painful.
It's very, very
I've not had my teeth done, so...
You know, it's what you said is spot on, Halima, that people buy the transformation. So you got to think of your clinic as a bridge. This is where person A is. This is where they need to go. You are the bridge to get them there. That's what you need to sell. So when you're selling something, like I said, just as a product, it's just a commodity. If you're selling the weight loss now, I know it's huge, was it Kilimanjaro or something?
Yeah, that's one of them.
You know, if you're just selling that as a commodity, yeah, you're going to compete with everyone else. So if you go, I'll give you the best example. The best company, the industry at doing this is the travel agents. So if you go into a travel agent, what you'll see is destinations. Right, it's where the customer wants to go. Beach holidays, city breaks, winter breaks, whatever it is. And what are they actually selling, the travel agent? It's just aeroplane seats. Well, you don't go into a travel agent and they show you aeroplane seats and this is a configuration, they have this 17-inch on this airline and that. What they're selling is a destination because they know once you've bought into the destination, you're going to need a plane. Sell them the outcome. That's exactly what they're buying. You're right. They're buying the outcome. So your marketing should be focused on the outcome, not on the features. Like people don't care about aircon. This car's got aircon, so what? But it keeps you cool when it's a hot day and you're stuck in traffic.
Yeah.
Oh, right. So when you end up at work, you're not sweating. That's what they're buying. So understand this, right? There's three powerful drivers with humans, right? There's wealth, relationships, and health. Wealth, health, relationships. Because if people are short on any of them, they'll pay. Think about it, right? The underlying is all three of them are connected to one very powerful drive, which is status. But we're selling on a website, for example, a lot of times it's not because it's making money, it's status. Even if you're making money, it's to do with status. Or maybe just having a nice website and want to show it to their friends and family. And you're in the industry, it's health. And that's got huge impact on status. That's what people are buying, and that's when they don't care about money.
But the thing is, when we talk about status, it's not just the elites. Everybody wants to have that in their pockets.
Yeah, exactly.
So you've actually, every person, if all of us watching or here set up this private clinic, we'll all have a person willing to go to us. There's no sort of competition that we should feel that exists, because it's non-existent, to be fair. There's a client for everyone, and because everyone's chasing that status. And when someone sees you, you know, and it's word of mouth as well, like, you know, I went to so-and-so and she's amazing, or he's really good at what he does, and, you know, it's word of mouth and referrals, and that's, you know, a major footfall for you as well. And that's why I genuinely believe, even as a pharmacist or as an individual, the way you carry yourself is so important. You know, a person should never walk away from a conversation, whether that's a client or a patient or a colleague, feeling like they've not gained something from you. And that is something that I stand by, and I always believe. If a conversation, you either haven't gained something or you haven't had that person gain something from you, it's a pointless conversation to be had.
You're right, you can do all the marketing in the world, but if you're providing a crap service,
exactly.
then the word's going to go round.
So exactly. So it's not just how it's marketed. It's how you present yourself as an individual as well, and not chasing just this sort of dream, but actually believing in yourself and having those proper conversations with patients and understanding the difference between a patient and a client as well. Because there is a gap between them. Because I mean, in NHS, patients are, we see them in and out constantly, but that having that time with a client and spending a good, having a good quality conversation with them is so important.
Yeah, and I think that's quite interesting point that you raised about changing your perception from a patient to a client. I think we're used to seeing them as patients, to the point where I think when there was a new term going, they changed the term from patient-centered to person-centered. There's a big pushback from certain sections of the sector where it's a lot. If you and I fully understand. I think it is quite an important point when they said the moment you change it from patient-centered to person-centered, you start to commoditize that person. It's more that they become more of a how do we now make money from this person, from a patient who needs to be looked after, and the health needs to be is the first priority. But in this context, it's important that we see them as the client that needs this specific private service, which will then give us the money to keep running this private clinic. And this is I think the quite an important issue within the pharmacy sector itself, where we're so focused as healthcare professionals, and rightly so as well, where we see that the people walking through the door as patients. We'll always refer to them as patients. I mean, it's been drilled into our head that it's person-centered care, it's person-centered this, person-centered that. And a lot of the multiples actually push this idea of person-centered care. But pharmacists and doctors, we're always like, no, it's patient. There are patients, they're not just a person. The first thing we think about is their health. How do we cure them? Whereas in the private healthcare business, you're looking at, they're not here for the cure. They're here to feel better about themselves. What do we need to do to make them feel better about themselves? And that's kind of, to me, I think is probably one of the most important issues to understand in this business, in that what you're essentially selling, and I think this is what you've said at the start as well, is you're selling the experience. You're selling that feeling inside after they've had the treatment. Oh, I look good today. My hair looks perfect. Finally got rid of the bald patch. I can grow an afro.
That might be a bit difficult to hide.
Hey. I can get a wig. But it's that feeling inside is what we're selling essentially, isn't it?
Yeah.
Ultimately, when we get rid of all the fluff and all the...
But I think that is also where we really, we have our advantage, because we are so upskilled in that, and we're taught this in university constantly. We have OSCEs, we have demos, we see this constantly, how to speak to a patient, how do you have a conversation, your WAM questions, and you're so limited in the time you have, and we actually can now diagnose and treat a patient in that. So if we just switch that mindset and seen them as a client, and so actually in that time frame I could do the same because I already have that skill, and just reapplying it into this situation, I think that is what we need to change. And once that is achieved, pharmacists will understand how to use it in different sectors. Whether you're running a travel clinic, it doesn't actually matter what you're selling, it's how you're selling it.
That's right. All right. Any last words from...
I think if you're going to set up a clinic,
Yeah.
focus on 3 things as a pharmacist. Specialise in one thing, create an offer. So not just a commodity, not just weight loss. Think of what you can package. Number 2 is, when you have someone who's interested, how are you going to convert that into a paying client or patient? Okay, it's really important to have a sales process. And number 3, have one predictable way of booking appointments. If you have those three things, you can make these 7 figures. That's guaranteed. So the only thing to focus on is that your offer, your sales process, and how you're going to generate the bookings. Have a good system with it, and then just focus on that for 2 to 3 years.
Brilliant. Halima, anything?
Yeah, I'd say, like I said in the beginning, and from my perfect example, be willing to walk away from discussions. Don't limit yourself to what anyone believes that you're worth, and continue to upskill as well, and speak to different pharmacists as well, and other people that are also in the same position as you, and I think that will be really beneficial.
So now where can we find you guys on social media?
So Phaceclinics is where you can find me.
Brilliant.
It's Kaybox, Kaybox.
Put that into the description as well.
Yeah, and to be honest, it's been a brilliant conversation. It's been good talking to you guys both. Some fascinating stuff from you both, and some really in-depth and interesting wise words from your end. And it's really exciting to see what you're doing, to be honest. Being someone who's just recently qualified, you've actually done a lot in your time. I know we've spoken quite a lot, and I've spoken to probably thousands of pharmacists over the last few years, and certain people stand out. And even before, because this is the first time I've actually met, and this is the first time we've met face to face, but I've spoken to them quite a lot, and when someone's got their head screwed on and they know exactly what they want, they're focused, and I think you've got that in that you kind of know, right, this is what I want, this is how I'm going to get to it, I just need a bit of help, and there, I'll do the rest myself, and it's really refreshing to see that, and we need more pharmacists to do that. I think we need to try and get as a profession, we need to try and move away from relying on employers for our work, doing this horse trading every morning of trying to get the next shift, or getting on the Locum apps and trying to find the next booking. It can really wear you out, and I think for me, where I see the benefit of this conversation that we're having is in pharmacists realizing that we're more than just the hourly rate that we get paid, or just to open up a pharmacy and check some prescriptions and do a few NHS services. There is so much more that we can do. It's just you've got to apply that knowledge and skill that we have, network with people, look at what other professions are doing, look at how dentistry's really transformed themselves, look at how private GPs run their clinic. We've got the skills, we can learn these skills quite easily. We can prescribe as well, which, not all other healthcare professions can do that. So there's nothing really holding us back apart from our own fears of failure. I've not been able to speak to one pharmacist earlier today who said, look, I want to do more, but what if I fail? And I'm like, what if you don't? What if you do really, really well and you start flying and you don't fall? And that's kind of the mindset we need to have, that, yeah, you'll fail, but failure is more of a you've learned how not to do that thing. So like on your Phaceclinic, if you do a marketing campaign and you don't get 1,000 people walking through the door, okay, it wasn't that effective. I was targeting 2,000, but only 1,000.
That's the thing. Failure means different things for different people. For something that may be a failure to me, may not be a failure to you. Getting £1 million might be a failure for Elon Musk, for example, but for me that might not be, and that's a really good point that you've made. And for me personally, I just want to mention, when I was taking that step, it was a big step, and it's a lot of a risk that you're taking, but it's taking that one step at a time, and seeing how that will basically get you to the top.
Yeah, and I think for me, this has been a fascinating conversation. I know we've been planning it for a while, but I think we need to have more of these conversations, on whether it's on the Telegram network, on Instagram or Facebook. we need to have these conversations, and we need to look at, what else can we do? The future is bright. The locum rates go up and down, and pharmacy contracting, the money the government's going to give is probably going to keep going down. The inflation is going to keep going up. But in between all of those situations, things that are happening out there, you've got a life. You've got the knowledge. You've got the skills. Do something with it. Make something of yourself. And that's me.
Yeah, thank you for listening in, and well done if you got to this point of the podcast.
And not falling asleep.
Thanks.
Definitely
everyone.
put popcorn there.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely will do. And yeah, thank you for listening to the podcast, and thank you for the guests
Thank you for
today.
having
Thanks,
us.
guys.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thanks.
No problem at all. And yeah, you can find us at MediReach and yourself.
The Pharmacist Cooperative, that's where I am. That's where I live, on Telegram.
Brilliant.
Or Twitter.
Or Twitter. I do like to get on Twitter sometimes, yes.
So yeah, that's me out. Tayo, Locum pharmacist and co-founder of MediReach. Thank you guys.
Good night.
Cheers. Bye bye.
Thanks a lot, man.
I learned a lot.
Thank you so